From translation, ISV International Standard Version, this 140 day of the year today, we are reading passages 2 Chronicles 35-36, 2 Chronicles chapter 35, verses 1 to 27. Josiah celebrated the Passover to the Lord in Jerusalem. On the 14th day of the first month, they slaughtered the Passover lambs. He appointed the priests to their duties and encouraged them in the service of the Lord's temple. He said to the Levites, who were to instruct all Israel and consecrate themselves to the Lord, place the sacred ark in the temple that Solomon, the son of David, king of Israel, built. You don't need to carry it on your shoulders anymore. Now serve the Lord your God and his people Israel. Organize yourselves according to your ancestral houses, according to the divisions of the Levites, as prescribed by King David of Israel, and according to the written instructions of his son Solomon. Stand in the holy place, with a group of relatives for each of your ancestral families, so that the descendants of each family may be represented in their divisions. Slaughter the Passover lambs, consecrate yourselves, and prepare the sacrifices for your relatives, so that they may do what the Lord commanded through Moses. Josiah contributed 30,000 sheep and lambs from his own flocks, and 3,000 cattle from his own herds for the Passover offerings, along with all the other animals for the festival offerings that were his contribution. His officials also contributed willingly to the people, the priests, and the Levites. Hilkiah, Zechariah, and Jehiel, the administrators of God's temple, contributed 26 Passover sacrifices from their own flocks, along with 300 cattle. Kenaniah, his brothers Shemaiah and Nethanel, as well as Hashabiah, Jael, and Jozabad, the officials of the Levites, contributed 5,000 Passover sacrifices from their own flocks, along with 500 cattle for the Levites. The service was arranged to carry out the requirement for the people. The priests stood in their positions, as the Levites arranged them according to the king's instructions. The Passover lambs were slaughtered, and the priests sprinkled the blood as they received it from the Levites, while the Levites skinned the animals. They set aside the burnt offerings so they could be distributed according to the ancestral divisions of the people, to offer to the Lord as prescribed in the scroll of Moses. They did the same with the cattle. They roasted the Passover lambs with fire according to regulations. The holy offerings were boiled in pots, kettles, and pans. They quickly distributed them to all the people. Afterward they made preparations for themselves and for the priests, since the priests, the descendants of Aaron, were busy offering the burnt offerings and the fat portions until night. So the Levites made preparations for themselves and for the priests, the descendants of Aaron. The musicians, the descendants of Asaph, were in their positions as prescribed by David, Asaph, Heman, and Jeduthun the king's seer. The gatekeepers did not need to leave their posts, since their fellow Levites made preparations for them. So on that day all the service of the Lord was carried out to celebrate the Passover, and to offer burnt offerings on the altar of the Lord, as King Josiah had ordered. The Israelites who were present celebrated the Passover at that time, and observed the festival of unleavened bread for 7 days. There had not been a Passover celebration like this in Israel since the days of the prophet Samuel, and no king before Josiah had celebrated a Passover like this one, celebrated in Jerusalem to the Lord. This Passover was celebrated in the 18th year of Josiah's reign. After Josiah had done all this, King Necho of Egypt went up to fight at Carchemish on the Euphrates, and Josiah went out to confront him. Necho sent messengers to him, saying, "What is the conflict between you and me, O king of Judah? I am not coming against you today, but I am coming against the house that is at war with me. As for God, he told me to hurry. Don't interfere with God, who is with me. Otherwise he will destroy you." But Josiah would not turn away from him. He disguised himself to fight against Necho. He did not listen to the words of Necho from the mouth of God, but went to fight in the valley of Megiddo. Archers shot King Josiah, and he said to his servants, "Take me away, because I am badly wounded." So his servants took him out of the chariot and put him in his other chariot and brought him to Jerusalem, where he died. He was buried in the tombs of his ancestors, and all Judah and Jerusalem mourned for him. Jeremiah composed a lament for Josiah, and all the male and female singers continue to speak of Josiah in their laments to this day. These became a tradition in Israel. Look, they are written in the Book of Laments. The other events of Josiah's reign, his deeds of faithful service according to what is written in the law of the Lord, and all his accomplishments from beginning to end, are recorded in the records of the kings of Israel and Judah. His officials and the women who composed the laments dedicated their laments to him, reminding him of how he had been a good king in the land of Judah, and had done what was right and good in the sight of the Lord his God. 2 Chronicles chapter 36, verses 1 to 23. The people of the land took Jehoahaz son of Josiah, and made him king in place of his father in Jerusalem. Jehoahaz was 23 years old when he became king, and he reigned 3 months in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Hamutal, daughter of Jeremiah, from Libnah. He did what was evil in the sight of the Lord, just as his ancestors had done. Then Pharaoh Necho put him in chains at Riblah in the land of Hamath, to prevent him from reigning in Jerusalem, and imposed a tribute on the land of 100 talents of silver and 1 talent of gold. Pharaoh Necho made Eliakim son of Josiah king in place of Jehoahaz his father, and changed his name to Jehoiakim. But Necho took Jehoahaz and brought him to Egypt, where he died. Jehoiakim paid Pharaoh Necho the silver and gold he demanded. In order to do so, Jehoiakim taxed the land and exacted the silver and gold from the people of the land, according to the direction of Pharaoh. He exacted the silver and gold from the people of the land to give it to Pharaoh Necho. Jehoiakim took the articles belonging to the house of God and brought them to Egypt. There is no record of any of these articles being returned to Jerusalem. The other events of Jehoiakim's reign, the detestable things he did and all that happened to him, are recorded in the records of the kings of Israel and Judah. Jehoiachin his son succeeded him as king. Jehoiachin was 18 years old when he became king, and he reigned 3 months and 10 days in Jerusalem. He did what was evil in the sight of the Lord. At the turn of the year, King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon came to Jerusalem and besieged it. King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon came to the city, while Jehoiachin king of Judah, his mother, his servants, his officials, and his eunuchs surrendered to the king of Babylon. The king of Babylon, in the 8th year of his reign, took Jehoiachin prisoner. He also led away all the treasures from the house of the Lord and the treasures of the king's palace, and cut up all the gold articles that Solomon king of Israel had made in the temple of the Lord, as the Lord had predicted. He deported all Jerusalem, all the officials and soldiers, 10,000 captives, and all the craftsmen and metalworkers. Except for the poorest people of the land, nobody remained. He appointed Mattaniah, Jehoiachin's uncle, in his place, and changed his name to Zedekiah. Zedekiah was 21 years old when he became king, and he reigned 11 years in Jerusalem. He did what was evil in the sight of the Lord his God, and did not humble himself before Jeremiah the prophet, who spoke for the Lord. But he stiffened his neck and hardened his heart against turning to the Lord, the God of Israel. Furthermore, all the officials of the priests and the people became more unfaithful, following all the detestable practices of the nations. They polluted the house of the Lord that he had consecrated in Jerusalem. Then the Lord, the God of their ancestors, sent word against them by his messengers again and again, because he had compassion on his people and on his dwelling place. But they mocked the messengers of God, despised his words, and scoffed at his prophets, until the wrath of the Lord rose against his people, until there was no remedy. Therefore he brought against them the army commanders of the king of Babylon. The king of Babylon killed their young men with the sword in the house of their sanctuary. He showed no compassion on young men or women, the elderly or the sick. He handed everything over to him. He took all the treasures to Babylon. He burned the house of God, tore down the walls of Jerusalem, burned all its fortresses, and destroyed all its valuable articles. Everyone who escaped from the sword he deported to Babylon, where they became servants to him and his sons until the kingdom of Persia arose. In the 1st year of Cyrus king of Persia, in order to fulfill the word of the Lord spoken by Jeremiah. The Lord stirred up the spirit of Cyrus king of Persia to issue a proclamation throughout his kingdom, and to put it in writing, as follows. This is what Cyrus king of Persia says. The Lord, the God of heaven, has given to me all the kingdoms of the earth, and he has appointed me to build a temple for him at Jerusalem in Judah. Whoever belongs to him among you may go up, and may the Lord his God be with him.